It's that time of the week. It's the SEC Unfiltered Week 7 Power Rankings. Who rose and who fall in Chris Phillips' list. Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G. Turn us up, turn us on, turn it out. I'm here with my good friend Chris Phillips, owner, host, producer, everything over at SEC Unfiltered. Chris, I want to thank you for joining me on today's show. As always, we're going to talk about last week's rankings and this week's rankings. And then we're going to get into the Auburn Tigers headed into Georgia. Why are they where they are? We're going to get into it. Chris, let's start at the top here. Last week, Auburn had a bye, but it didn't stop movement, though. It was a weird slate of games. It was a weird slate of games last week. Coming in at number 1, much to my chagrin, Ole Miss, A&M at 2, Bama at 3, Georgia at 4, Tennessee at 5, Missouri at 6, Vanderbilt comes in at 7, Oklahoma at 8, Texas at 9. I didn't stay there. LSU at 10, 11 Mississippi State, 12 South Carolina, 13 Auburn, 14 Florida. Arkansas comes in at 15, and dead smack last in the conference is Kentucky. Again, it was not a great slate of games last week, but we did get Georgia, Alabama. So some things did kind of work themselves out. Moving forward to this week, week 7, Ole Miss, 2 weeks straight at number 1. Nothing makes sense anymore. We're living in the upside down. Texas A&M at 2, Alabama at 3, Georgia at 4 this week. Tennessee at 5, Missouri comes in at number 6 in the week 7 power rankings. So 1 through 6 unchanged here, week over week. 7, though, is Oklahoma. Coming in at 8, Vanderbilt, 9, LSU, 10, Florida. They beat Texas, so they move up. Texas falls because they lost. So they were previously at 5 and fell down quite a bit there after losing to Florida, below Florida. Auburn moves up the list at 12. And then you've got Mississippi State at 13, South Carolina at 14. The bottom 2 still Arkansas and Kentucky. Let's just start at the top and just get out of the way. The Ole Miss comes in. I get it, right? They're the highest ranked team in the AP right now as well, too. And until they lose, we got to kind of go with them as the cream of the crop of the conference.
Yeah, Mike, for the time being. I mean, listen, I had them at 1 last week after they beat LSU in Oxford, and obviously did not feel right to move them out of that spot when they were on the bye. But yeah, I mean, listen, we live in a world where I think it's a very realistic chance that Ole Miss makes their first SEC championship game ever and makes the college football playoff. I think that's the reality that we live in. The 2 big games they've got at Georgia, at Oklahoma, back-to-back in a few short weeks. And I think that 2-game stretch will sort of define their season, Mike. I think they'll probably need to go 1-1 in that stretch because the rest of the way you've got tricky games still, against Florida, against South Carolina, and of course the Egg Bowl this year, which looks like it might actually have some juice to it in Starkville with the way that Mississippi State has resurged at this point. So, yeah, I just didn't feel comfortable moving Ole Miss out of the 1 slot when they did not play. Obviously, Mike, there's going to be movement. And there wasn't a lot of movement from last week to this week just because, like we mentioned, we only had 5 games, and really we only had 4 because Oklahoma played Kent State, one of the worst teams in college football. So this week's slate, I don't think that'll be the case. We got some big-time showdowns. There will be potentially, I think, a ton of movement in these power rankings as we continue to try to answer the question, just figure out, Mike, who are going to be the teams that represent the conference in the college football playoff. There's probably about 8 or 9 right now that I think you can make cases for. But as we saw last year, that'll get whittled down very quickly.
Let's start at the top. Alabama and Missouri probably be one of the better games of the day on Saturday. Alabama coming in at number 8 in the AP, Missouri 14. But on our rankings here, you've got Alabama at 3 and Missouri at 6. So the number 3 and 6 teams in the conference square off on Saturday. Talk to me about this game, man. This is these are starting to become elimination games
Mhm.
here. So if you've got SEC championship, I'm sorry, if you have college football playoff aspirations, a loss here for either of these teams doesn't eliminate them from any of that, right? Alabama at 2 losses would still have all their goals in front of them, and obviously it would only be Missouri's first loss, so they still have all their goals in front of them. But it gets a little bit tighter when you start talking about that SEC championship race, a game that Missouri has won since has made since they joined the conference.
Yeah, this is a big one too for Missouri. Just from they're continuously, Mike, fighting the national respect thing, if you will. Like they're just not nationally respected, right? Everybody writes them off because of the schedule. The schedule's why they do what they do. And I mean, you look at the schedule; their best wins are over Kansas and South Carolina. And all due respect to those programs, I mean, it's nowhere near what you're going to be facing in Alabama. Big one for Bama, certainly, like you mentioned, you don't want to pick up that second loss, have to walk the tightrope all the way to the college football playoff, sitting there with 2 losses. And like you mentioned, the SEC title race. I mean, the good news for Bama is this, Mike, is that one of their only loss was out of conference. So they don't have a conference loss yet. So sitting pretty right now for the path to the SEC title. But huge game for Mizzou to win over some national respect. I am going Bama in this football game, admittedly, Mike. It kind of feels like at this point, this is sort of the song and dance that Missouri does. Like, I love Ahmad Hardy and Jamal Roberts in the rushing attack. I think that matchup on that side, and then the other side, Ty Simpson is the best quarterback in the conference right now, maybe one of the best in the entire country, certainly jumping up the Heisman hot boards. I think he's a guy with the passing game. That is Missouri's weakness. I was there a couple weeks ago when they played South Carolina. Lenora Sellers lit them up like a Christmas tree. Like, he had no issues through the air. So it's kind of what gives, but this is what Mizzou does, Mike. They get into these situations to where when they play the above average competition on their schedule, they seem to falter and fall short. Again, that's just what we've seen in years past. Maybe this Missouri team is different, but I got to give the nod to Alabama. And that's the thing, too. Kalen DeBoer's team show up for these games, these ranked on ranked matchups. It's not these that I'm overly concerned about. I do think it's a close game, but I do think Bama will find a way to go on the road and get the win. And let's be honest, Mike, get a win in a road environment that I think is much more manageable than some others across the league.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Moving down the slate, the number 1 team in the power rankings plays a John Materialist Washington State. Man, they lost their quarterback, their conference, all kind of loss going on there for Washington State. They are destitute. I expect that Ole Miss will handle business there. A very wide spread on that game, 32.5. It's the spread on that one right now. But look, SEC Unfiltered is going to be it's got a first coming up here this weekend. The Red River Rivalry is now an SEC game. It sounds wild to say that, but one of college football's best rivalries, which will be played in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl, there at Jerry World. Um, it's coming to the SEC. 3:30 on Saturday. Oklahoma. I think Texas technically is a home game for that. That the home team for that game. This is a must-win for Texas. If you want to keep your season alive, this is a must-win. Now we know Mateer is out for a period of time after he got hurt allegedly during the Auburn game. But if you're Oklahoma, you're trying to survive this stretch without John Mateer and get him back. And if they can find a way to a win here in the Red River Rivalry against Texas, I got to believe Oklahoma maybe has a chance to take the top spot in your rankings.
Yeah, I think with a win, I feel pretty confident in saying especially if they're able to win without John Mateer. There's obviously sources saying he's pushing to play. I'm a little skeptical on it, Mike. It feels like gamesmanship. I mean, just being ready to go 17 days after you broke your hand and had surgery sounds crazy, but you never know. We shall see. They could wrap it up. They could shoot him up with all kinds of stuff, but especially if they're able to win this game without John Mateer and do it with Michael Hawkins, I think that's going to say. I mean, listen, I think they have the best defense in the entire country. And on the Texas side, you're right. I mean, Mike, I was at the game in the Swamp over this past weekend. It's ugly. I mean, that performance coming out of a bye week. They might have the worst offensive line in the conference. Like, they are awful. They can't run the football. They can't protect Arch Manning. Arch Manning looks like a baby deer back there who hasn't quite found his footing the way he's galloping around in the pocket. And, even when he's making the big plays, Mike, it feels like he's almost just kind of throwing it up and just hoping for a miracle. And he seems to hit a few every now and then. I like Oklahoma in the game in a low-scoring battle. I mean, I think it's going to be a rock fight. I think it's going to be an ugly, sloppy game. The thing that makes this game tough to predict, Mike, and you are right, by the way, my first ever Red River shootout, can't wait, getting into Dallas and just experiencing this whole thing, the Texas State Fair, the crowds split at the 50. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to experience it firsthand. But what makes this game to predict, Mike, is hard to predict, is I think there's going to be turnovers. There could be special teams plays. There's going to be blunders. It's hard to predict a game in which I think there's going to be so much chaos. And I think this is going to be more of a game, Mike, where somebody loses it more than someone wins it, if that makes sense. Like, I think one of these two teams is like, who makes the critical mistake? Who has that turnover in their own end of the field? Who throws the pick six? Who fumbles the football that leads to the scoop and score? Like, I think someone's going to lose this game versus someone going out and taking it and winning this football game. So, yeah, it's going to be a really interesting contest, but I've just seen nothing from Texas on the offensive side at this point. Like, Mike, you're not going to find yourself offensively against maybe the best defense and defensive front in all of college football. So I do have the Sooners in a low-scoring bout, and yeah, they win that game and they're sitting pretty undefeated. Yeah, I think there will be a real case to talk about Oklahoma in the number one spot.
Chris, Florida and Texas A&M play, obviously. Billy Napier are going to be in that weird, like, don't lose to me or you might get fired that kind of game. He's like, right. He's that game for everybody. Like, you don't want to lose to us right now because we're way down. And then South Carolina, LSU play a game I expect LSU should be able to handle, but we'll see what South Carolina can pull out there. But game of the weekend, potentially, though, could be Auburn, Georgia, and not because of how well each team is doing. It is the Deep South's oldest rivalry, and when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about what that game is, and then, of course, we're going to talk about our frauds. I want to thank our friends for sponsoring this segment at Abel's Iron Moore and Associates. Chris, when it comes to managing your money, trust matters. Abel's Iron Moore and Associates is a fiduciary, which means they're legally required to put your best interest first. That's not just a promise, it's the law. No hidden agendas, no sales pitches, just investment advice you can rely on. With over 20 years of helping clients grow and protect their wealth, they provide disciplined investment management and guidance tailored to your goals. You get clarity, confidence, and a team committed to helping your money work as hard as you do. Call AIMA at 912-777-4128 or visit aimainc.com. Fiduciary fee only, focused on you. The War Report has been compensated by Abel's Iron Moore and Associates for this endorsement. Abel's Iron Moore and Associates is a registered investment advisor. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. The information in this advertisement is for informational purposes only and should not be considered personalized investment advice. All investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal, and past performance is not indicative of future results. I want to thank our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. If you've got maybe some non-traditional ailments and you're looking for some non-traditional remedies, the Rogue Shop could be the place for you. Visit them again. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your order. Our guy Richard dropping a little something special in there for everybody using code REPORT today. Also want to thank our friends at Sky Tobacco and Vape. Where did they go? Need a smoke shop that's always close by? Sky Tobacco and Vape has you covered all over Columbus and even across the bridge in Phoenix City. Whether you're cruising down Airport Thruway, rolling along Victory Drive, or making a pit stop on the bypass, they've got a spot ready for you. From vapes to tobacco and everything in between, Sky Tobacco and Vape is your one-stop shop for good vibes and great deals. Swing through today. Chances are they're already on your way. I got friends at setsforsociety.ai. If you're looking to get to know yourself, become a better teammate, a better coworker, a better partner, maybe you just have a project coming and you want your team to be on the same page, functioning as a single unit that is inside each other's minds, Sets for Society has custom personality assessments that could help you achieve just that. Visit setsforsociety.ai to get your custom personality assessment started today. The road to knowing yourself starts with Sets for Society. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank our friends at the Buy Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. If you're in the Columbus, Phoenix City area and you're looking to get fresh for the weekend, the Buy Vault has you covered. My guy Steve Watkins serving up fresh cuts for the community every single day. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. You can find them again at 3462 Crosswinds Road. That's on Highway 431, right across the street from Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to the Renpro Supermarket and the Marco's Pizza. The Vibe Vault, not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. Let's jump back in here, man. Before we get to our frauds list, I do want to talk about Auburn versus Georgia. Georgia versus Auburn. Georgia comes to the Plains here at Media Days. You were there with me. Georgia players, Kirby Smart. Everybody said the Plains, man, hardest place to go play in the country. The SEC. They could not say enough about how hard it is to go down to Auburn and get a win, even though it seems like they haven't had a problem doing that since 2017. However, Auburn's going to be looking to make it a little tougher for them in the 2025 version of this game here. The spread on this one, Chris, interesting. Auburn has kept it close, right? The matchup predictor, ESPN's matchup predictor, giving Auburn only a 35.5% chance of winning this game. Yet the spread opened at 3.5 and sits at 3.5, and the over/under is at 46.5. Coin flip. Everything about these numbers, about these spreads, say that look, I think Vegas recognizes the talent as great on both sides, but giving the dogs the edge on the road is about coaching. And you've had interesting, I wouldn't say interesting, you've had very consistent thoughts on wanting to pick Auburn, but not because of who their head coach is. Talk to me, man. Has anything changed for you after the bye week for Auburn?
I have wrestled with this pick, Mike, back and forth, so much so that obviously you and I are speaking on a Tuesday, and so we dropped our preview and prediction for this game Tuesday morning. Monday night, I was sitting at my place thinking about the game, and I was ready to pick one way, and then when we came to do the prediction, I picked the other way. So it's like my heart and my head are wrestling with each other. My heart is betting Auburn plus 3.5. It's one of my best bets of the weekend. But my head is saying Georgia's going to find a way to win by 3 points. I think this – obviously, I think anytime, Mike, you have a night game at Jordan-Hare, especially when a rival is walking in there and you're coming off a bye week, like the stars are always going to be aligned. It's just it's one of those venues, it's one of those places, Mike, where the impossible becomes very possible very quickly. The unlikely becomes likely in the blink of an eye, right? The unthinkable becomes the normal at that place. It just does. So, like, the stars are aligned yet again. The recipe is there for the perfect upset. But at the end of the day, Auburn's got to go play the football game. That's the deal here. And, who am I going to trust in a knockdown, drag-out fight that's going to go into the fourth quarter, that somebody's going to have to make a play late to go win a football game? I have a hard time not trusting in Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs, Mike. I just do. I think opportunities will be there for Auburn on the offensive side. Some deep shots. I keep thinking back. I was at the game to what, Tennessee, what they were able to do down the field to Georgia. Alabama had some opportunities. They just weren't able to convert in that football game, against the Georgia secondary. With Auburn's array of weapons, there's no doubt they should be able to hit some shots, and we'll see if Jackson Arnold can actually hit those shots and take advantage, because I guarantee you there's going to be opportunities. Can you take advantage when they're there? For Georgia, it's so interesting because for Gunnar Stockton, right, he showed a lot of gall and a lot of guts and a lot of moxie in that game at Tennessee. This will be an environment equal to, if not greater than, what they experienced in Knoxville. I think it'll be that good of an environment. If I could be in two places at once this weekend, I'd be at Jordan-Hare for that game between the Dogs and the Tigers, Deep South Oldest rivalry. But at the end of the day, man, when it comes to making a pick, my heart so badly wants to go. I mean, who doesn't love a big upset, right? My heart so badly wants to go with the Auburn Tigers and say they find a way to pull it out. But Kirby mother effing Smart standing on that other sideline, Mike. Like I don't feel good about doubting him and his team in this spot.
I agree with you. I don't feel good about picking against Kirby either. When we do our boss toss loss segment every year, this was the one game I had firmly in the loss column for Auburn. And fans came at me and they said, "Mike, you have any faith against for us against Georgia?" And no, I don't. And I've been pretty optimistic on the rest of it, but this is just not one. This is not the one I wanted Auburn to have.
Hmm.
Of the opening 3 SEC games, at Oklahoma, at Texas A&M, home versus Georgia, I thought, get one road game. And you can lose Georgia, reset, and your whole season's still in front of you. Now, if they win on Saturday, their whole season is still in front of them. They're 4-2. I thought that was a great scenario for Auburn actually coming out of the first 6 games, was beat Baylor and get one of your first 3 SEC games. That's still attainable. However, the manner in which they lost versus Texas A&M puts a little doubt on whether they can get that done or not. You lost 16-10, Chris. And again, at the end of the game, your defense gave you a final drive with plenty of time on the clock left to march down, get a score, and win. And Auburn, 2 weeks straight, could not generate a single first down on a potentially game-winning drive. The floor cannot be that low for you offensively. What changes did they make in the bye week that would make me feel that they possibly have something figured out? Well, I'll tell you what, we did a press conference with Hugh yesterday, and I wasn't filled with confidence after that. So I didn't hear anything come out of that said, "Hey, look, man, we took a look at everything, and you're going to see a different, fired up team." There's an idea that they're close, and I disagree with that fundamentally. On the scoreboard, you are close. Offensively, you are not close. Offensively, I mean, I don't know, man. It felt like they took steps backwards from last year. Auburn moved the ball between the 20s last year just fine, just couldn't score.
And it's like you said about the Florida Texas A&M game, Mike, is that you were talking about Billy Napier and, hey, you better win this one or else, haha. It kind of feels like that for Hugh Freeze too, if we're being totally honest. I mean, sitting here at 3-2, I believe it is, with back-to-back losses, and if you make it a third straight loss and you're sitting at 3-3, and well, Mike, I mean, if you go 3-3 and you pick up a third loss, does that effectively knock you out of the college football playoff race entirely?
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly at minimum puts you in a scenario where you could not lose another game, because a fourth loss, I mean, you're definitely done. And a fourth loss would guarantee you fall short of the expectations set up by all of the Auburn fan base. You and I talked about it in the preseason. The goal was to, at minimum, get to the month of November when the calendar turned and say, hey, this team's still in the hunt for the college football playoff. Whether you make it or don't, kind of beside the point, right? Like, but if you're not even in the convo late, there's no way you can spin that as a successful season. So, like, this to me, Mike, this game for Auburn, this feels like the fork in the road for the season. It's gonna, and maybe you'd agree, maybe you would argue that it's already gone a certain way, but like, if you beat Georgia, a lot of the sins can be forgiven over the last 2 weeks. So it, to me, serves as that fork in the road. You're either gonna use this game as a spark and pull it upset, and it doesn't guarantee anything down the road. But losing this game guarantees, I think, a bunch. It guarantees a lot, for what your season is going to be, and probably not meeting the expectations you had set out for it. And that's a lot of pressure to put on a game against Kirby Smart in Georgia, but you've put yourself in this position with, your performances are, really what happened in Norman, and then obviously the game against Texas A&M. So it's a big one, no doubt.
Yeah. Oh boy, we got a fun one coming up here. But you know what else is fun? Talking about who potentially is going to be a fraud this week. Last week, was it these two jamokes? Well, let's jump into it, man. First up on the fraud list for week 7 is number 2 Texas A&M. As we mentioned, they have a game here that we'll be keeping an eye on. this weekend. But talk to me about Texas A&M on the fraud list at number 2 in the SEC Power Rankings.
Yeah, it's just you have to put them on there every single week. We talked about this last week, Mike, right? I mean, we put them on there against
They're
Mississippi
riding the
State.
line.
Yeah, I mean, it's just until we reach the finish line, like I said last week, I know I sound like a broken record, but you just have to put them on there because it's like, is that old A&M, shades of old A&M going to show up? And, I doubt many Aggies watch this program. I hope they do. I hope everybody watches this program. But, I think even they would understand, right? We get comments from Aggies all the time talking about, hey, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm not letting myself to get too carried away. I mean, let's not forget, Mike, they were 7-1 last year and controlled their destiny and essentially crumbled down the finish. So, yeah, and this Florida team's got enough talent to go into College Station and win this football game. I mean, I think that's the frustrating thing if you're a Gator, Mike, is you look at what they did last week and you're like, where has that been all season? How did that team lose to South Florida? I don't care if Texas is scuffling. Texas has still got ball players all over the field, and you did what you did to them, but you couldn't beat the South Florida Bulls. I don't – Billy Napier, for whatever reason, when his seat couldn't get any hotter, that's for whatever reason when he decides to cut it on and flip a switch and turn into something else, So but I think you got to put A&M on that fraud watch. It's just something you're going to continue to monitor week after week after week. If it's not this week, next week it's at Arkansas. Mike, we'll probably be talking about the same conversation. Hey, they're on fraud watch. Like, it's just one of those things until we finally get to like Samford the second to last week of the game, or second to last week of the season, and then Texas the final weekend, and maybe they're sitting there at like 10-1, and we're like, hey, A&M's not a fraud.
Yeah,
they were for real the whole time. But yeah, until we get to that point, we're all kind of waiting to see, right? Like it's like a car crash. You can't look away from what might happen next, what twists and turns are going to occur. But I think this A&M team's for real, but we've thought that before, and they've still found a way to 8-4.
The new Auburn Express SEC Unfiltered rule: whoever Florida is playing is on fraud watch. If you lose to Florida, you're on fraud watch. Next up on the fraud watch list is Missouri. They take on number 3 Alabama. I think this is appropriate. Look, Missouri's schedule has been Charmin 4-ply baby powder soft. So now we get to find out what the Tigers are made of. They don't have to win this game to prove that they're for real. But you certainly can't get run, and you definitely can't get run at home. So talk to me about Missouri being on fraud watch this week.
Yeah, and I mean it's fraud watch from the standpoint too, like you said, Mike. Like, think about last year. They went 9-3, and they won 10 games with a bowl win. But it was the most underwhelming 10-win season that you'll ever see, which feels so crazy to say, like in the SEC, that you can have an underwhelming 10-win or 9-win regular season. But yeah, when you play the best of the best, and last year you lost to Alabama 34-0, it kind of established who you were and where you belonged. Like you might go win 9 games, but you don't deserve a seat at the big kids table. You don't deserve a seat at the table with us. You're not one of us. You're posing as one of us, but you're not one of us. Like you said, you've got a schedule that's conducive. You could navigate through it blindfolded and go 8-4, right? So, but this is the opportunity for Missouri to prove that's not the case. That no, this year's team, they're not just a good football team because of a result of the schedule. They're just a good football team all around, period. And I think they are a good football team. But are they on the level of an Alabama, who, even though they lost week 1, obviously has gotten much better?
Yeah.
Ty Simpson's playing out of his mind. He's been incredible. We know about they've had the weapons the whole time. I think the return of Jam Miller has been super underrated. Rushed for over 100 yards against Vanderbilt. He did some really good things against Georgia that I think has given them some balance. And then defensively, they've still got dudes all over the place. So if Missouri's able to go out and beat Alabama, the statement that would make would be massive. At the same time, it's the reason they're on fraud watch, Mike. Like you said, if Bama goes out and runs them, I mean, it'd be hard for Missouri to get back any real respect as being like a real contender. I mean, think about it, Mike. Think about last year, the college football playoff rankings. I know these things are far from perfect, but they were one of those 9-3 SEC teams. Remember we talked about South Carolina, Alabama, Ole Miss, all 9-3. Mizzou was also 9-3. They weren't even remotely in the conversation. They were ranked like 24th. They weren't even close because there was just no respect for their game because when they played the best of the best, they got smoked. So, yeah, I think it's a huge opportunity for Mizzou, but definitely on fraud watch to see, are you for real or are you not?
Last up on the Fraud Watch list this week is LSU. Garrett Nussmeier, Brian Kelly. We'll be watching them. They have South Carolina this week. I agree. You can't lose South Carolina at this point if you have any aspiration of proving that you are not a fraud. Just I don't I don't care what the preseason expectations were for South Carolina. In their current form, in any form, if you're LSU, this is not a game you should ever lose, let alone at home. So this game gets kicked off at 7. This is a night game in Death Valley. No way, man. You lose this one, you're a fraud. I agree with them being on the watch list as a fraud this week.
Yeah, you're on fraud watch from the standpoint of, are you a contender or pretender for the college football playoff? That's what this comes down to. Obviously coming off that Ole Miss loss, then you had the bye week to figure some things out. Garrett Nussmeier to get healthy, what have you. It's a night game at Death Valley, Mike. That alone, you should win the football game. Then you factor in, like you said, it's a South Carolina team. They're also coming off a bye week, but their last outing, Mike, South Carolina did play Kentucky, got the win, but before that rushed for negative yardage against Missouri. It's a South Carolina team you absolutely should beat. If the Gamecocks come into your house, and especially if it comes via them shutting you down on the offensive side, more of the same of what we've seen, you're a fraud. You're a flat-out fraud when it comes to any talks of the college football playoff. Certainly any talks of the SEC title. You can kiss that goodbye. But I think from the standpoint of making the college football playoff, that's why LSU's on fraud watch. They lose this game, this will be truly the moment they are exposed as being one of the biggest frauds in the SEC. It's a must-win game. Hey, it's a must-win game. It's a can't-lose game for Brian Kelly and LSU to have any shot to hit their goals they had in the preseason.
Yeah, definitely. I just don't. You just can't lose this game. You were at that point where seasons are starting to shape up. Those second losses start to creep in there, and then once you get, I think the precedent was set last year. Once you get to loss number 3, playoffs are out for you. I don't think any 3-loss team is making it in over a 2-loss team from another conference. The College Football Playoff Committee sending that message last year. Heather Dinich, ESPN, said she felt like 5 teams could have got in from the SEC last year. And 5 teams definitely had the opportunity. They all had one thing in common. They had that inexplicable third loss. Ole Miss, Alabama, South Carolina ended on the streak, but they could not recover from 3 losses early in their season. Missouri, third loss, out of there, right? Like you got to get it done at 10-2, and you're in. And there are a lot of teams this weekend that have a chance to keep that dream alive, and some teams that dream will die for. As I mentioned, Alabama 4-1, Missouri 5-0, 1-0 in the SEC. They have a chance to. Both those teams can be alive after this weekend. Ole Miss 5-0, their dreams alive after this weekend. Oklahoma 5-0 versus 3-2 Texas. One more for Texas. That's it. We can stop talking about them in the playoff. I'm telling you that right now. But there's no way they're recovering from 3-3 to make the playoffs. Arkansas is out at 2-3. But Tennessee, it'd be a tough one to swallow, but you're teetering on it if you lose this weekend and you move to 4-2, 1-2 in SEC. Florida's out. Texas A&M has their whole season in front of them. Georgia can withstand a loss this weekend and bounce back. Auburn, that's it for you, man. You lose this weekend. Now an overachieving 9-win season is the best you could hope for, and you got to clean the slate to do that. And then you've got South Carolina and LSU. South Carolina, I think they're already kind of eliminated, but you get at 3-2. But if you're LSU, this is not the one. This is not the one you want to give away. You can't give this one away, man. You're at 4-1 right now. You beat them. You move to 5-1. You're firmly inside the AP top 10. And all your goals are still in front of you. So dreams will thrive and die this weekend. Chris, on this SEC slate, I want to thank you for joining me on today's show. Before we get out here, as always, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, Mike, always a pleasure. I appreciate you having me. At SEC Unfiltered, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, also wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, all across all social media platforms, our website, secunfiltered.com. And the SEC Unfiltered Tour rages on, as we mentioned earlier, Dallas, Texas for the Red River Shootout. Can't wait.
Guys, follow Chris. He does great work. Love watching, following the SEC Unfiltered Tour there. Glad you guys will be in Texas for this one. Do us a favor after the video, hit the comments. Let us know what you think about the rankings and about the fraud list, about the slate of games we talked about so much here. Who do you guys have winning and losing? And when you're in the comment section, do us a favor, smash that super thanks button. Your financial support helps keep the work that we're doing here going. Please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform. We are TW Report on TikTok. We're signing off, and as always, War Eagle.